you want to scale your meta ads profitably in 2026, then you need to understand custom audiences. Now, this is a feature you may have heard about 100 times, and chances are you've maybe even built one or two of them yourself. But having spent well over $100 million on paid ads across more than 20 different industries, there is nothing more criminally misunderstood than custom audiences. And until you understand how to actually use them, your ads have zero chance of scaling profitably. Now, in this video, I'm gonna walk you through the 6 custom audiences that every business owner needs to have built the specific job each one of them actually does in your ad account, and how to combine them into a system that drops your cost per lead while increasing your quality. Now, before we dive into that, we need to fix the way you're actually thinking about custom audiences, because most business owners don't give them the credit they actually deserve. They just treat them like a targeting setting. And across the 20 plus industries that I've personally run ads in, the same pattern always shows up in almost every account that I audit. The campaigns are running, the leads are coming in, but the audience tab is basically empty. It's kind of like a control audience. Maybe an old website audience built that nobody really updates, and maybe a lookalike off of that customer list that got uploaded once and forgotten. And the sad part is that's the whole audience strategy for a business spending real money on Meta every single month. Because the mindset shift you need to have is that the custom audience tab is the engine room inside your account, not just a feature inside your ads manager. But most business owners have never even opened that door. So let's open it with the first audience. The first audience you need to build is the website custom audience, and it's probably the most valuable in your entire account. See, every person that lands on your funnel is somebody who clicked on something, saw your offer, and was potentially interested enough to take the first step. And Meta charged you for that click, but then 80 to 90% of them leave without ever converting, which on its own isn't really a problem, because that's just how paid traffic works. The problem is what happens next, because most business owners do absolutely nothing with those people. They leave that data to die on the internet. They watch them leave, and then they go right back to running more cold traffic to find new prospects who will probably also leave, which means they ended up paying for the same kind of person twice. The fix here is a website custom audience, and you actually want to build 2 of them. The first one is for every visitor to your funnel in the last 180 days, and the second one is for people who actually converted, whether they became a lead, made a purchase, or even booked a call. Then you run a retargeting campaign that targets the first audience and excludes the second, which means now you're talking exclusively to people who showed intent but didn't pull the trigger. And because those people are already warm, your cost per acquisition on that campaign is going to be a fraction of what you're paying for cold traffic. And guess what? Your budget is also going to be small too. This is exactly what we did for SPF Screens, a Florida home service client that we worked with about a year ago. They hit over $1 million in revenue by month 5 at a 3.1x return, and a meaningful chunk of that came from retargeting that we layered on top of their cold traffic without even touching their offer or creatives or anything like that. Now, the second audience you need to build is your customer list. And honestly, this one frustrates me more than any of the others. It requires zero work and you still don't do it. It's sitting inside your business, and most people, they just won't build it. Let me go ahead and show you guys a secret trick on how you can automate this. All right, so check this out. Inside of Go High Level, when you're creating a new workflow, what you can do is add a new trigger, and let's call it like whatever. Let's just call this a tag and say tag is added customer, whatever. And so like, let's say that this is the tag that you assign to someone that's paying for you. It doesn't have to be this. It can be anything you want. And contact tag customer. And what you can do here is you can actually click the plus icon, look up Facebook, add to custom audience. You can click on that. And then here you'll have a drop down if your Facebook page is connected to this specific high level account. And you can actually select the custom audience that you just created in order for you to actually be able to automatically add new people to this audience without doing any manual work at all. You set this up once, and then it's automated forever. And keep in mind, you can do this for multiple types of audiences. So let's say you have a custom audience for paying customers. You can also do this for potentially someone who, whatever, booked call. Let's just call it booked call. And then you can have it, you can change the custom audience to the book call custom audience. And same concept applies for showed up call. You can build a custom audience for every single stage of your pipeline, from stranger to paying customer. And that's pretty much it. Every business owner I audit has hundreds or sometimes thousands of paying customers sitting inside their CRM with all the names, emails, and phone numbers. The problem is that that list is just sitting there doing absolutely nothing for the paid ad side of their business. Even though it's probably the most valuable targeting data that you could possibly have on hand to give Meta. No matter if you use Go High Level like me or a different CRM, this will work for you. The only fields that actually matter on the uploaded are first name, last name, email, and phone number. And you want to have at least 500 rows because 10 to 20% of those people, they won't even get matched to a Facebook profile. And anything below that threshold, the matched audience is probably too small to be useful. Now, I recommend creating it anyway and automating it, but it probably won't be as useful as you think. But where this audience really earns its place in your account is once your customer list is uploaded, the second thing it unlocks is exclusions. And this is the part I see almost every business owner completely sleep on, because every cold campaign you're running right now is showing your ad to anyone Meta thinks is a good fit for your offer, which means you're literally paying Meta to put your sales page in front of people who already pulled out their credit card and paid you. It doesn't make any sense. So what you need to do is go into every cold campaign and exclude your customer list from the targeting. On accounts that were running for years without this in place, this single change drops your cost per lead by maybe 10 to 20% overnight without you having to touch the creatives, the copy, the offer, nothing. Now, before we get into the third audience, if you find this valuable so far, let me know by hitting the like button and subscribe on the channel to not miss any future videos like this. We're so close to 10,000 subscribers. Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate everything you guys are doing for me. And if you guys have any questions throughout this video, drop it in the comments below. I'll try to get back to everyone as well. All right, now the third audience is video viewers. This one only actually works if you're producing video content on Facebook, Instagram, or video ads through Meta. But if you have been running videos, what most business owners don't realize is that every view is data, and Meta is quietly sorting all of it in a 365-day window, which is double what most custom audiences actually allows, which means you've been posting consistently for the last 12 months, you're already built a custom audience without even knowing it. So when you go to build it, Meta gives you watch percentage options ranging from 3 seconds all the way up to 95%. And the mistake I see most people make is they pick 3 seconds because it gives them the biggest pool of individuals who have seen their stuff, which is actually the worst possible choice because a 3-second view tells you absolutely nothing about that potential lead. It just means their thumb paused on the feed before they kept scrolling. The percentage only starts to mean something when your video is at least 2 minutes long, because that's actually when the watch threshold actually reflects into intent, because someone who watched 75% of a 5-minute video is voluntarily giving you 4 minutes of their attention. And that's a high intent signal that you can build a strategy around. So if you have a long form testimonial or a case study video on your channel, build a 75% watch audience from it and run a direct conversion ads straight to that audience, because those people have already sat through your social proof. They heard your result. You built some trust with them. So all your retargeting ad has to do is make the offer, and the cost per acquisition is going to be a fraction of what you're paying on cold. Now, the fourth audience is built from your Facebook lead form. And to be clear, I mean the native Meta ads form that pops up inside the platform when someone clicks on your ad, not a funnel or a landing page. When you build a custom audience from a lead form, Meta gives you 3 options, and almost everyone running these campaigns only uses one of them, which I think is a massive mistake. They build a list of people who submitted, and that's it, which means they're leaving the 2 warmest audience on the platform completely untouched. The first option is people who opened the form but didn't submit it. This is hands down the warmest retargeting audience in your entire account. These are leads who clicked the ad, started filling out the form, got to maybe the 3rd question, and bailed out at the last second. They were 1 tap away from becoming your lead or call scheduled or whatever it may be. And most business owners just let them walk away before they even know that this audience even exists. And how you use it is by building a retargeting campaign that hits these people with a different angle or a stronger offer, because the original ad clearly didn't get them across to the finish line. The second option is people who opened and submitted the form, which is your existing lead. And this is the most valuable lookalike source that you have access to on the entire platform, because people who filled out a Facebook lead form are exponentially higher intent than people who just visited your website or landing page or whatever it may be, or even just watch the video. So you build a 1% lookalike off this audience. You're telling Meta to find more people who actually take action, not just more people who just scroll by my stuff. This is exactly what we did for Flow International Group, a life insurance client that we ran ads for in Miami. We took the submitted leads audience and built a 1% lookalike from it, and over a 4-month campaign, that audience has helped them collect over $5 million in cash at a 20x ROAS, while scaling them from $1 to $2 million per month in annual premium. Now, one thing to avoid when you're building these is to stack signals inside a single audience by combining people who who opened the form plus visited your website, plus maybe even watched the video. Keep one audience per source, because the minute you start mixing signals, the data gets messy and Meta can't optimize properly. Now, the fifth audience is an Instagram account engagement. And this one is basically free intent data sitting inside your account that nobody's taking advantage of. Because what most business owners actually do is they don't realize that Meta tracks every interaction with your Instagram. From likes to comments to saves, follows, DMs, profile visit, you name it. And every one of those data points you can turn into a custom audience, going back a full 365 days. The reason this matters is because most Instagram engagement is much stronger signal than a basic website visit. So someone who visits your website might have clicked a Google result by accident, but someone who follows you and saves your content and is actively engaging on your Instagram is telling Meta that you matter to them. And that trust is the entire reason a cold prospect ever decides to fill out a form or book a call in the first place. So here's how you actually use it. First, you run a direct conversion ad straight to your Instagram engagement audience, because these people already know you, who you are, your cost per lead, and your cost per lead is going to be a fraction of what you're paying running cold. But the real move here is layering this audience into your retargeting funnel. So when you run a cold campaign and a prospect engages with your Instagram but doesn't convert, you hit them with a second ad inside this audience that pushes a stronger offer or a different angle or whatever it may be. The next thing you want to do is you want to build a 1% lookalike off of that same Instagram engagement audience. And this is where it gets interesting, because you're telling Meta to find people who behave like your most engaged followers, not just people who fit a generic interest category. Behavior, it's really more accurate than interest in 2026. And these lookalikes typically end up being some of the cheapest, highest quality cold audiences you can run on the entire platform. The only catch with this lookalike is that you need volume in the source for it to actually work. So if your Instagram is under a few thousand engagers in the last 365 days, I wouldn't bother with it, because Meta doesn't have enough behavioral data to model from. And you'll get better results just running broad. So if this is where you're at, focus on growing your engagement first and come back to this play once you've got the volume. Now, the sixth and final audience is Facebook page engagement, which works exactly the same way as Instagram, but pulls from your business Facebook page instead. And honestly, for most service businesses in 2026, your Instagram audience is going to be bigger and more valuable. So if you only have time to build one, build Instagram first. That said, there are two scenarios where Facebook page engagement becomes a non-negotiable. The first one is if you're running a messenger campaign, because people who already message your Facebook page are more likely to want to message you again than a cold audience. And what most people don't realize is that you can build a specific audience just from people who messaged you, separate from general page engagement, which is the warmest messenger audience you can possibly retarget. If you're running a Meta Messenger campaign and not using this, you're literally leaving money on the table for no reason at all every single day. The second scenario is if you're in an industry where Facebook is still the dominant platform, like home services, insurance, or local businesses where the customers are kind of older. In those industries, your Facebook page engagement audience can actually outperform your Instagram. So building it is honestly mandatory. And the lookalike off of that audience is where real money is made, because you're telling Meta to find more people who behave like the audience already paying attention to your brand on the platform that they actually spend the most time on. For a home service or insurance business, that's typically your single cheapest cold acquisition channel. Now, if neither of these scenarios apply to you, build it anyways. It costs you literally $0 to have this sitting in your account, and your Facebook page audience are also some of the longest lasting on the platform, with a full 365-day window, the same as Instagram, and it automatically updates every day. So 6 months from now, if you decide to run a campaign on Facebook for any reason at all, you've already got a warm audience and a lookalike source ready to be deployed on day one, instead of really starting from scratch. All right, so that's all 6, and each one pulls in a different type of prospect at a different stage of their buying process. If you're stacking all of them in your account, you're already ahead of most businesses spending big money on Meta right now. Now, this is where the system absolutely prints money. Every single one of those custom audiences you just built isn't just a targeting audience. It is also a lookalike source, which means once you build one, you can hand it to Meta and say, find me more people who look exactly and act exactly like those people in the audience. And that's when your reach goes from a few thousand warm prospects to potentially millions of people that are high quality cold ones without you doing any extra work. It's literally a couple clicks. And in 2026, with the Andromeda algorithm processing signals from billions of users every single day, lookalikes are still one of the most powerful targeting options on the entire platform. But this is where almost every business owner I audit gets it wrong. They take their entire customer list, every single person who has ever paid them any money, throw it into a 1% lookalike, and then conclude that lookalikes don't work anymore when the results come back mediocre because they only picked one strategy when there is 6 or 7 potential strategies. And a lot of times if the lookalike doesn't work, it's not the lookalike that's not working, it's the source that's feeding it. Because when you upload your entire customer list, you're telling Meta to find people who look like your average customer. And your average performance is exactly what is going to come back. So the way to build a lookalike that actually performs is to feed Meta only your best data. Now, what that looks like in practice depends on your business. But if you're running a service business, you upload your closed deals only, just the people who actually paid you, and you can even sort it from highest dollar amount to lowest dollar amount. Because the quality of what you put in is exactly what Meta is going to send back to you. Now, once your source is right, the next decision is the percentage. And the rule here is way simpler than most people make it. If you're spending under $10,000 a month, stick with a 1% lookalike. That's the tightest match Meta can potentially give you at your spend level. And at this point, you want really precision over volume. The second you go over $10,000 a month, you can start testing 2 or 3% because now you have the budget to give the algorithm more room to find people that may not be exactly your lookalike audience. But here's something that most people are still adjusting in 2026. With Advantage Plus campaigns, Meta no longer treats your audience section as like a hard rule, and it's more so like a suggestion, which means the algorithm may expand beyond your 1% lookalike if it finds better people outside of it. And that's actually a great thing. So your job is no longer to put Meta in a box that has rigid targeting. You just need to feed it the best possible starting signal and then let Andromeda do what it does. Now, to give you a better idea of what this looks like, there was a friend of mine that I ended up working with that came to me when they were spending $50 a day on Meta and pulling 1 lead a day, sometimes 2 leads a day, which is basically nothing. And for them, we built out this full custom audience setup, layered the lookalikes off of the right sources, and combined all of it with the exclusion strategy that I'm about to walk you through. Within 90 days, he was running $2,000 a day in ad spend and pulling over 9,200 leads a month, which is more than 90 times the increase in lead volume in only 3 months. And by the end of his first year, he'd end up spending $3.69 million on ads and generated over 214,000 leads. And we even pulled in 81 million plus impressions across his campaigns. But before I show you how we did that, if you want my free click to client course that covers everything on custom audiences and so much more, I'll leave the link down below in the description. By the way, it's 100% free, all right? Just so you know, you can't just spend $3.7 million on ads, slap it on a 1% lookalike, and call it a day. It only happens when the full audience system is firing together, which brings me to the last thing you can do with custom audiences, and that is filtering. Because here's the thing, every cold campaign you're running right now should automatically be excluding 3 specific audiences: your existing customers, your existing leads, and anyone sitting inside an active retargeting funnel. Because if you're not excluding these 3, you're literally paying Meta to show your cold ads to people who already know exactly who you are. And that's literally paying twice for the same prospect. So once you set up those exclusions on every cold campaign, every dollar gets focused on net new prospects only. I've seen this single change drop cost per leads by double digits on accounts that have been running for years without it. Now, for higher spending accounts, there's an advanced version of this play, which is building a custom audience off of bad fit clients. So those who refunded, churned, charged back within 30 days, or were just difficult to work with in general. Then you can build a 1% lookalike off of that audience and exclude that lookalike from every cold campaign that you're actively running. And what that tells Meta is to find more people who look like your ideal customers while filtering out anyone who looks like the worst ones. And lead quality climbs significantly with this strategy without you ever having to touch your offer or anything else. And that covers the full custom audience system with the 6 audiences, the lookalike multiplier, and the exclusion layer that ties everything together really nicely. But knowing how to build an audience is one thing, because most perfectly targeted lookalikes in the world means absolutely nothing if your creative can't stop their scroll in the first 2 seconds. And there's a very specific way that the best performing Meta ads are structured right now that almost nobody outside of agencies is paying attention to. So watch this video next where I break down a single ad we ran that pulled in $5.6 million, and I'll show you exactly what made it work.